Hello everyone. In this video, I will introduce to you the right triangle. And specifically, in this video, we will discuss one of the special cases for the right triangle. And before we keep going with this, let's discuss some of the characteristics of right triangle. And this will be as follows. First, the right triangle, as any triangle, has three sides, and number two, as three angles. To make this more easy to understand, let's draw the following triangle. So when we are talking about the sides, if we start with the sides, we can see that we have the biggest side, and we call this biggest side as hypotenuse. And we know that this is the hypotenuse and this is the biggest side if we suppose that this angle is the 90-degree angle. The 90-degree angle is the opposite of the biggest side, which is the hypotenuse. So the sides will be like this. One of the sides, we call it hypotenuse, and this is which is opposite to the 90-degree angle. Now the other two sides, which is leg 1 and leg 2. Talking about the leg 1 and leg 2, it doesn't matter which side is leg 1. For example, this side could be leg 1, and at the same time the other side here will be like leg 2. At the same time, you can take this side as like leg 2 and the other side here as leg 1. So for simplification, let's take it like this. So we can say, like, for example, this is leg 1 and here is the leg 2. So for the sides, talking about the sides, now we have three sides. As you see, we have the hypotenuse, we have leg 1, and we have leg 2. The most important thing I want you to remember that the hypotenuse, which is the biggest side, should be in the opposite side to the right angle. Now, the second thing about the characteristics, which we call it now the angles, it has three angles. So any right triangle has three angles. So we have, in this case, three angles. And actually, the first angle, as we saw, which is like the 90-degree angle. Remember all the time, the 90-degree angle is the biggest angle, which is the opposite to the biggest side, which is the hypotenuse. So the first angle is 90-degree angle. Now the other two angle will be something like this. Here is one angle and here is another angle. So we can call this angle here as angle 1, and we can call this one here as angle 2. So actually what we have is angle 1 and the third angle, which is angle 2. I want you to remember that as the right angle is 90 degree, now the other two angle, which is like angle 1 plus angle 2 together is 90 degree angle. Based on these characteristics, which is related to the sides and angles, we can reach to the point about one of the special cases that is related to the right triangle as follows. We can draw this angle like this. So we will start first. If we suppose that this one is 90 degree angle and this side exactly is the hypotenuse, as we said before, okay, the biggest angle, the opposite to like the hypotenuse, and the hypotenuse is the biggest side. Then we have the leg 1, for example, and we have the leg 2. Now I need you to remember that if the angle, this angle, which is angle 1, for example, is 30 degree angle, now let's call this one as angle 1. So what is the measurement for the second angle? As we said here, that angle 1 and angle 2 together is 90 degree. So we can say that, okay, angle 1 plus angle 2 is equal to the 90 degree. Now angle 1, as you see here, is 30 degree. So we substitute as 30 degree plus angle 2 as x, and this is equal 90. We take 30 degree from this side and 30 degree from this side. Now we can cancel 30 with 30 to get 0. We take the x down as follows. X equal, now 90 minus 30, which is equal 60 degree. So the answer will be 60 degree. That's mean angle 2 here, angle 2 is equal to the 60 degree. So as a summary, we can reach to the point that this triangle, this case of right triangle, is something like this. Please remember first that we have the right angle 90 degree, and for example if this one is 30 degree and this one is 60 degree. So remember the triangle, right triangle, which is 30 degree, 60 degree and 90 degree. We study until now the three sides and we study the three angles. We go further with the angle measurement. We have the 30 degree and the 60 degree and the 90 degree. What about the measurement? These measurements is known by mathematician as follows. So the sides will be as follows. It could be 1, 2 and square root of 3. So if we are taking the square root of 3, remember that it's about like 1.73. So the square root of 3 is about 1.73. And the rules say the rules say that big angle opposite to big side. So if we compare the numbers together, we can find that 2 is the biggest number. So 2 is the biggest number. Then followed that with 1.73, which is smaller than 2 or less than 2. And finally, the smallest side, which is 1. So the smallest side will be 1. Now, if we compare that with that, we will find that the biggest angle is 90 degrees, and as we said, the big angle opposite to the big side. So in this case, here is the angle and here is the opposite side. So this side is the biggest side. We call it before what? Of course, we call it hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. So now here is the big angle and here is the big side. So the big side, as you see, is 2, and this is opposite to what? That's correct, opposite to the 90 degree. So the hypotenuse in this case is what? 2. Okay, now let's talk about the 1. Number 1 here is what? It is the small side. So here is the small side, and we can see that the 30. So the 30 here is the smallest angle here, small angle. So now we can say that here is 30 as small angle. And if we look carefully, we can see that this side here is the opposite of small angle. So we can say that as big angle opposite to the big side, we can say that small angle is opposite to small side. The small side here is 1 and the small angle is 30. So that's mean the angle is 30. So we will take the 30 with the opposite side. So here is the smallest side, and this side we can call it, if you want, leg 1, which is equal 1 unit. Now we left in the middle with 1.73 or square root of 3. And we can see we left with what? We left with the 60 degrees. So 60 degrees as in the middle between 30 and 90. So that's why we need to concern about the opposite side. Here is the opposite side for the 60 degree. So this side we finish with 2 as the biggest side. We finish with the 1 as the smallest side. So we end up with what? With 3 here, which is the square root of 3, and this is exactly the measurement of this side that is opposite to the 60. So we can say that here is the angle, which is 60 degree. So we can take the angle 60 degree, and the side is what? The square root of 3. Here is square root of 3. We can summarize everything as follows. We can say that we have this triangle. So first, we have 3 sides, as we said before, 3 sides, and we have 3 angles. We can start with the angles like this. For example, here is the 90 degree angle, and we have the opposite of this angle, which is this side. Again, we call it the hypotenuse, and the measurement of this one is 2 as the biggest side. And now we can talk about, like, for example, like as this time we can take it as 30 degree, and here is the smallest angle, okay, the smallest angle, and the opposite side is the smallest side, and the smallest side is 1. So this side measurement is 1, and then we end up with this angle, which is 60 degree, and we end up with this side as in the middle between the smallest side 1 and the largest side or biggest side, which is 2, and the answer here is square root of 3. Now, when we reach to the point that we can recognize the triangle, we can recognize the angles, and we can recognize the sides, so recognizing both of them, now we are ready to the last concept related to all of this, what we call it like the adjacent and opposite and hypotenuse. So for each angle, I'm not talking now mathematically, I'm talking about something that help us to remember. So for each angle, we should have 3 things. 1, opposite side, and we have what we call it adjacent side, and finally we have the hypotenuse. Please remember these 3 things. Remember these 3 things because I will talk about it in the next few minutes. So let's talk about this triangle, for example. So if we have this triangle as an example, if we suppose that this is like the 90 degree angle, immediately we can say that this side is 2 as the biggest side, which is the hypotenuse, okay? And then if we suppose that this angle, for example, is 30 degree, so this angle is what? 60 degree. Now we expect that this side is the opposite of 30, so this is the smallest side, so here is 1, and the other side, which is opposite to the 60, as you can see here, which is in the middle between the small one as 1 and the large one as 2, so here is the square root of 3. As I said, any angle or each angle has like 3 things. Let's start with the 30. In the 30, you have the opposite like this, but at the same time, you have the adjacent like this, and you have the hypotenuse like this. So I will start with this to make it easy for you like this. So first, we have 3 sides. This side is hypotenuse, okay? And then when we finish with this line, I can just highlight it to make it easy for you to remember in yellow. So when we finish with this side, we lift up with 2 sides, right? Okay, 2 sides. Now the furthest one, which is the opposite, so we can call this one here. Let me color it with something different. So this side here, okay, and this side is the opposite of angle 30 degree, and the last one, which is this one, I can highlight it like this. As you can see, this is the nearest one, which is like adjacent to the angle 3. So in this case, we have this one as adjacent to angle 3. Oh, I'm sorry, angle 30. Angle 30. So now we have angle 30. We have the hypotenuse. We have the opposite, and we have the adjacent. So the hypotenuse is 2, and the opposite for the 30 is 1, and the adjacent for the 30 is square root of 3. Let's take another example to make it more clear. For example, I can take this angle or this triangle like this. So if I suppose that this is like the 90-degree angle, okay, and for example this one as 30-degree and this one as 60-degree. I will do this quickly this time because now I think you get the idea better than before. So we have the 90, the opposite of the 90. Here we call it the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse measurement is 2, the biggest one. Now let's talk about the 60 in this time. The 60 has the first thing, which is the hypotenuse, as you see here. Let's make it with different color. So we will start with the hypotenuse. When we finish the hypotenuse, okay, for the 60, the furthest one, which we call it what? We call it the opposite. And here is the intermediate between the small and the big one. And this side is square root of 3, and the opposite of the 30, which is smallest one, which is 1. So for in this case, the furthest is square root of 3, and this side is the opposite of 60. We can do it like this. So if we can highlight it like this, okay, so this is like, as you see, the furthest or the opposite of the angle 60. And the final thing here is talking about this side. We highlighted in blue, and we are talking about the nearest one to the 60, which is like the adjacent. So we call this side as adjacent to angle 60-degree. So in this case, what you see that like we have the opposite of 60, which is square root of 3, and the adjacent for 60 is 1, and the hypotenuse here is what? Is 2. And this is exactly what we need for this video. So we need just for the 30 and 60 degree. The last thing I will talk about next video. In the next video, I will talk about the sine of 30 and the cosine of 30 and the tangent of 30. At the same time, I will talk also about the sine of 60 degree and the cosine of 60 degree and the tangent of the 60 degree. So I can talk about the sine and cosine and tangent of these two angles, the 30 and 60. And I will thank you, all of you guys, for watching this video and being patient. Let's practice and practice to make the math more and more easy.